The world is not malfunctioning. It is not cruel by accident. It is not unfair because someone forgot to fix it. The system you are struggling inside is operating with brutal precision. If you've been grinding for years, burning your mornings and bleeding your nights, only to end up standing in the same financial place you were 3 years ago, this isn't bad luck. This isn't fate playing games with you. This is law. Cold, mechanical, invisible, and once you see it, you can never unsee it. You were raised on a comforting myth, a story repeated so often it feels like truth. Work hard, be good, follow the rules, and the system will eventually reward you. But look around, really, look. Look at the tired eyes on the subway. Look at the brilliant minds crushed by debt. Look at people who did everything right and are still one emergency away from collapse. Does this look like a system that rewards effort? Does wealth chase sweat? No. Money doesn't follow effort. It doesn't follow goodness. It doesn't even follow talent. Money follows position. This is the law most people never learn. The law of position. And it explains why some people seem to rise effortlessly while others drown no matter how hard they swim. The rich are not working harder than you. In many cases, they're working far less. They are not smarter by divine design. They are not chosen. They are simply standing somewhere else. Imagine a river. You are downstream, fighting the current, cupping your hand trying to catch enough water to survive. Upstream, someone has built a dam. The water flows either way, but only one position captures it. No amount of swimming will reverse gravity. No prayer will make the river flow backward. Most people spend their lives fighting physics. They exhaust themselves at the bottom of the waterfall, wondering why the force is so violent, why it keeps crushing them. They never look up. They never see that the person above them is not stronger. He's positioned. He isn't working against the water. He has placed himself where the water works for him. And this is where the illusion shatters. You don't need more discipline. You don't need to wake up earlier. You don't need to grind harder. You need to stop moving long enough to look at the map. Because right now, you are fighting a war from the low ground against an enemy who owns the hill. Society trains you to be a creator, build skills, add value, be useful, become the best engineer, the best writer, the best employee. Creation is worshipped. Value creation is praised. But the machine does not reward creation. It rewards capture. Think of a hydroelectric dam. The water is the energy, the labor, the movement, the force. The water creates the power, but the water doesn't get paid. The dam does. The dam doesn't rush. It doesn't hustle. It doesn't grind. It simply exists at a choke point where the water has no choice but to pass. By position alone, it captures the value of everything flowing through it. You are the river. You are the force. You move. Erode yourself. Generate energy for cities you'll never own. And because you don't control the choke point, you leave your value behind every time you pass through the system. This is why the rich get richer. They are not the water. They are the dam. They focus obsessively on acquiring positions where value must flow. Once they secure that position, wealth becomes automatic, structural, effortless in the most infuriating way. No motivation required, no new decisions. The system does the work for them. This is what power really is. Not energy, not effort. Structure. A throne matters more than the man sitting in it. Place a mediocre person in a high-leverage position and he will produce wealth. Place a genius in a low-leverage position and he will earn wages. Look at any modern organization. At the bottom is the technician, the creator, the one who actually does the work. His leverage is 1-to-1. If he stops, his income stops. Above him is the manager, coordinating the time of many. Above that the executive, deciding direction, and above all of them, the owner, the one who does nothing but owns. His leverage is infinite. He can be asleep, absent, or unconscious, and still get richer. Not because he works, but because he owns the structure that captures everyone else's work. This isn't a conspiracy. It's geometry, an inverted funnel where value flows upward and concentrates at the top. Gravity favors position, not effort. Getting angry at this is like yelling at gravity. It won't help. You have two options: remain the river and hope for rain, or become the dam. This is where most people break, because they've been taught that skill is everything, that if you become undeniable, the world will bend. This is the skill trap. Talented artists starving, brilliant programmers underpaid, hard-working professionals exhausted. Immense skill, zero leverage. Skill without position is wasted force. A master swordsman in a room ruled by gunpowder is irrelevant. An orator with no audience is silent. Position multiplies skill. Without it, your effort is multiplied by zero. This is the tragedy. People max out effort and talent, then multiply it by a structural zero, and wonder why the outcome doesn't change. They dig harder in the wrong place. The rich don't dig better, they stand where the water already is. And once you understand this, the exhaustion starts to make sense. You were never lazy. You were never incapable. You were just standing in the wrong place. The bars of the prison weren't made of steel. They were made of position. Once you understand that position multiplies everything, the next illusion collapses, the idea that effort is noble in itself. We glorify suffering. We romanticize exhaustion. We wear long hours like medals, but in a Machiavellian lens. Overwork is not virtue. It is evidence. Evidence that you are fighting gravity instead of harnessing it. When someone says, "I worked 80 hours this week," the system doesn't hear heroism. It hears inefficiency. It hears that you needed 80 units of energy to achieve what someone in a higher position achieved with a single decision. That is not strength. That is structural weakness. Here is the brutal equation of reality. Outcome equals skill plus effort multiplied by position. If position is zero, your effort doesn't matter. 100 skill plus 100 effort times zero still equals zero. This is why doubling down feels like drowning faster. You are increasing variables that don't control the result. The market is not a moral judge. It does not care who deserves more. It asks only one question: where is value being captured? Sweat is not currency. Suffering is not collateral. The bank does not accept exhaustion as payment. This is why reliance on skill is punished. Skill is bound to your body and your time. A surgeon can save one patient at a time. A lawyer can bill 1 hour at a time. Even at the top of skill, leverage is capped by biology. Ownership is not. The owner of the hospital doesn't touch the scalpel. He positions the hospital, negotiates contracts, and captures the flow. As long as you identify as the hardest worker, you are locking yourself into a cage and calling it pride. You are decorating your prison. The system loves this because it keeps you busy, tired, and obedient. But there is a deeper reason most people refuse to move upstream, even when they see the math. Crowds feel safe. The bottom is crowded. It offers camaraderie, shared complaints, and a familiar enemy. The boss, the system, the government. There is comfort in struggling together. Moving upstream requires something most people avoid: isolation. You must leave the herd. You must step into uncertainty. You must abandon the fantasy that fairness governs outcomes. Many would rather be poor and morally superior than wealthy and structurally responsible. We are addicted to the underdog story. We want to believe heart beats power, but in the real world, Goliath wins most of the time because he has reach, armor, and mass. The rich don't play the underdog. They play the house. They don't fight battles. They build walls. They control supply lines. They wait. This demands a shift in identity. You must stop seeing yourself as a worker and start seeing yourself as an asset allocator. Even if you have no money, you have assets, time, attention, energy. Most people sell these wholesale into labor. Outliers allocate them into leverage. They spend time building systems. They spend energy securing relationships, not for friendship, but for access to positions. They spend attention locating leaks in the system where value escapes, then placing themselves underneath like a bucket. This is strategic laziness, not inactivity, but refusal to waste effort where leverage is low. History rewards this again and again. Bill Gates didn't write every line of code. He positioned himself between IBM and the operating system. Rockefeller didn't drill oil. He bought refineries. He stood at the bottleneck. And that is the rule. Find the bottleneck. Every industry has one. In the gold rush, it wasn't gold. It was shovels. On the internet, it wasn't content. It was distribution. Search, algorithms, attention. If you are creating content, you are water. If you own the platform, you are the dam. Ask yourself honestly, where do you stand relative to the bottleneck of your industry? Are you squeezing through the hole, or are you standing at the gate charging a toll? If you are squeezing, you will always compete. Competition exists only where position is weak. Monopolies are born from position, not superiority. So why haven't you moved? Not ignorance alone. There are 3 psychological tripwires that keep you frozen. First, identity sunk cost. You built a persona around struggle. Grinder, hustler, reliable. To move positions, you must kill that identity. Admit that years of effort were misallocated. The ego would rather be right and poor than wrong and rich. Second, salary addiction. A paycheck is the most effective drug ever created. Just enough to numb ambition, not enough to buy freedom. Bi-weekly dopamine trains you to fear ownership. Wealth is uneven. It comes in droughts and floods. To build a dam, you must endure the drought. Most cannot. Third, the illusion of risk. You are told ownership is risky, while employment is safe. But employment has one failure point. One boss, one company, one industry. Lose it, and you have zero leverage. Owners diversify positions. They redefine safety as control, not stability. This is where the migration begins. Not climbing ladders, but traversing terrain. From high-effort, low-leverage zones to low-effort, high-leverage zones. The corporate ladder is a farm. Different bells on the same livestock. The real hierarchy is hidden. Time sellers at the bottom, merchants above, architects above them, capital allocators at the top. You cannot labor your way up this hierarchy. You must jump. Change the nature of your income, not the size. A doctor earning $500,000 selling time is poorer than a system owner earning far less but owning leverage. One is trapped by golden handcuffs. The other is free to move. And freedom is the real game. The rich buy back time first. You buy comfort. They buy keys. Once you grasp that freedom is the real currency, another truth emerges. Most people don't actually want freedom. They want comfort, and comfort is the perfect cage. You use money to make the cage softer, a better car to drive to the job that drains you, a bigger house to sleep in between shifts at the factory of your soul. Every upgrade makes the bars more polished, but the bars remain. The rich do the opposite. They use their first wealth to buy time, not luxury. Time, because time is leverage's fertilizer. With time they can think. With time they can wait. With time they can position themselves again and again. You spend money to escape discomfort. They spend money to escape dependence. This is the core divide. The consumer versus the owner. The renter versus the architect. The man who pushes the boulder versus the man who owns the mountain. And here's the part that shatters most people's hope. You cannot work your way from labor to ownership. There is no smooth bridge, no promotion that turns a time seller into a capitalist. You don't climb, you jump. You change the category of how you earn, not how much you earn. That jump feels terrifying because it breaks every rule you were taught. You were trained to ask for permission, to wait your turn, to follow the path. But promotions are crumbs. They are rewards designed to keep you from baking your own bread. Power is never given. It is occupied. This is where Machiavellian thinking becomes surgical. Power flows into vacuums. Empty spaces in the system don't stay empty. They get filled. If you want leverage, you don't compete where everyone else is screaming. You look for silence, for the unanswered question, the unresolved pain, the bottleneck that is quietly costing someone millions. Most people imitate. They see podcasts trending and start podcasts. They see coding hype and learn coding, noise chasing noise. The rich do the opposite. They ask one question: what is the thing powerful people desperately need but cannot solve easily? When you find that void, you do not politely offer help. You position yourself inside it. You don't sell time, you sell relief. You become the cork in the hull of a sinking ship. And when you are the cork, price becomes irrelevant. The captain doesn't negotiate with survival. This is the law of necessity. If you are nice to have, you are poor. If you are necessary, you are rich. Markets don't reward effort. They reward indispensability. Look at your current role. If you vanish tomorrow, would anything collapse? Or would you be replaced after a brief inconvenience? If replacement is easy, your position is weak. And weak positions have capped income by definition. To get rich, you must become structurally necessary. You must own the relationship, the data, the process, the access, something no one else can easily replicate. Create a vacuum only you can fill, then wait. Let urgency drive value toward you. If ownership is not yet possible, there is a faster bridge. The gatekeeper role. Every system has owners and gatekeepers. The owner holds the asset. The gatekeeper controls access. Real estate agents, investment bankers, talent agents, they don't create. They stand between demand and supply and charge a toll. Purists hate this. They call it parasitic. Machiavellians understand it as reality. Access is value. In a world drowning in options, the person who controls entry controls outcomes. If you know who a powerful person needs to meet, you have leverage. If you own the audience, you control the sale. You don't need to build the product, you just need to own the intersection. Imagine a busy city crossing. You don't need to build the cars or the roads. You just place the billboard where traffic must pass. That's position. That's leverage. This requires a shift from how do I work harder to where is attention flowing? Attention is the oil of the modern world. Whoever controls it, controls money. Writing code in a basement is labor. Deciding which code gets featured is power. Always seek the gate. But here comes the final psychological barrier: risk. The poor fear losing what little they have. The rich fear missing what they could gain. That single difference shapes everything. You were taught safety is stability, a paycheck, predictability. The rich know safety is control, ownership, options. Employment feels safe until it vanishes. Automation, AI, and consolidation are eroding the bottom of the pyramid. The water is rising. Staying downstream is not caution, it is danger. Elevation is the only safety. This may require sacrifice, leaving a job that pays well but teaches nothing. Investing savings into equity instead of status symbols. Looking foolish for years while you build something invisible. Machiavelli understood this tension. Fortune yields to those who move with conviction. Hesitation is punished. Guarantees do not exist in leverage games. There are only probabilities. And the probability of getting rich by selling time is 0. Ownership is not certain, but it is the only game where the math works. When you finally shift position, something strange happens. The exhaustion fades. You may still work long hours, but friction disappears. Every hour compounds. You are no longer renting your life. You are building equity in it. Bitterness dissolves. Envy transforms into understanding. You stop hating the rich and start seeing the structure. It was never personal. It was mechanical. You were never inadequate. You were just standing in the dark, cursing yourself, bruising your shins. Position is the light switch. And once you flip it, the room doesn't just brighten. You realize it was always there. Once the light is on, another danger appears, one most people never anticipate. Getting rich does not end the war. It changes the battlefield. Poverty attacks you openly. Wealth attracts predators quietly. Once you own position, everyone wants access to it. The wolves don't disappear. They change costumes. They arrive as partners, friends, lovers, advisors. This is where most newly powerful people fall. They learn how to build leverage, but not how to defend it. Machiavelli understood this deeply. Power gained without defense is temporary. A fortress without walls invites invasion. So the question becomes, how do you protect position once you have it? First, you must understand this truth. Poverty is being ignored by the market. Wealth is being essential to it. And when you become essential, attention becomes dangerous. Every favor requested is a leak. Every explanation is exposure. Every emotional reaction is information. The biggest mistake people make after gaining leverage is remaining psychologically downstream. They still over-explain, still seek approval, still react emotionally. That behavior made them safe when they were powerless. Now it makes them vulnerable. Power requires a new operating system. Start with this. Never confuse access with loyalty. People don't miss you. They miss their ability to summon you. When access is unlimited, respect collapses. Scarcity is not cruelty. It is structure. The more predictable and available you are, the easier you are to control. Machiavelli warned that familiarity breeds contempt, not because people are evil, but because humans devalue what they can easily reach. If you are always present, you become background noise. If you manage presence, you create gravity. Strategic absence is not retreat. It is domination through distance. When you withdraw intentionally, people are forced to confront their dependence. Silence becomes a mirror. They see not you, but themselves. This is where emotional discipline becomes power. Every reaction you give is a window into your weaknesses, anger, defensiveness, over-justification. These are tells, and anyone watching can use them to manipulate you. The one who provokes reaction controls the frame. The one who remains centered owns it. Machiavelli never told you not to feel. He told you not to bleed publicly. Emotion is human. Reaction is optional. When you master this, something shifts. You stop being pulled by invisible strings. You become unreadable. And unreadable men are dangerous. Predictability is not virtue, it is liability. If people know exactly how you will respond, they can plan around you. They can push you, bait you, extract concessions. The moment you break pattern, say no where yes was expected, withdraw where explanation was assumed, the power dynamic flips. Unpredictability is not chaos. It is calculated mystery. It forces hesitation, and hesitation creates leverage. Another principle emerges here. Presence is currency. Attention is oil. Energy is capital. Stop spending it on trivial battles, emotional fires, or people who offer no return. Machiavelli would call burnout strategic failure, not because you worked too hard, but because you spent power on low-value engagements. Silence is not weakness, it is camouflage. In a world addicted to noise, the man who says nothing becomes a threat, not because he hides, but because others project into the void. When you stop explaining, people panic. When you stop defending, narratives collapse. When you stop reacting, manipulators expose themselves. This is siege warfare, not combat. You conserve while others exhaust themselves. You observe while they reveal. You wait while they bleed energy. And waiting is not passive, it is positioning. The strongest move is often not striking, but withholding. He who speaks first exposes himself first. He who reacts loses the frame. The one who remains still controls the moment. But this discipline comes at a cost. Isolation, silence, the uncomfortable space where approval once lived. Many retreat here, mistaking discomfort for error. It is not. It is detox. You are withdrawing from the addiction of being needed, from the illusion that availability equals worth, from the identity built on obedience. This is the death before the crown. Most men never complete this phase. They run back to noise, back to validation, back to explaining themselves to people who never earned access. And in doing so, they give power away again. But if you stay, something solidifies. You no longer chase clarity in others. You build certainty in yourself. You stop performing. You stop apologizing for growth. You stop asking permission to evolve. Machiavelli would say this is where sovereignty begins. Not when others respect you, but when you stop requiring it. You are no longer here to be understood. You are here to be effective. You are no longer here to be liked. You are here to be positioned. And once this internal shift locks in, you stop fearing loss. Because you understand the truth. Position can be rebuilt. Skills can be redeployed. Access can be reacquired. But dignity, once surrendered repeatedly, is expensive to recover. This is why the rich protect position ruthlessly, not with emotion, with distance, with silence, with selective engagement. They don't fight every battle. They choose terrain. They wait for timing. They strike only when probability favors them. And this brings us to the final awakening. What it truly means to live upstream. Living upstream is not about domination over others. It is about dominion over yourself. This is the final inversion most people miss. They think power is loud, visible, aggressive. But real power is quiet, because it doesn't need witnesses. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't announce intent. It moves when the terrain is right, and vanishes when exposure would weaken it. At this stage, your life becomes an audit, not emotional, surgical. You examine every income stream and ask a single question: does this scale without me? You look at your daily actions and ask, am I building a dam, or am I carrying water? You look at your industry and ask, where is the bottleneck and who controls it? If you cannot answer these questions, you are not lost, you are prey. The predator is not the strongest. He is the most aware. He knows the terrain. He knows where energy flows and where it pools. He does not chase every opportunity. He waits for alignment. He understands that speed without direction is exhaustion, and effort without position is self-harm. This is the final lesson Machiavelli left between the lines. Power is not about morality. It is not about fairness. It is about structure. The world is not cruel. It is architectural. Once you accept that, bitterness dissolves. You stop demanding justice from systems that were never designed to be just. You stop pleading for recognition from markets that only respond to leverage. And something else happens. You stop being tired. Not because you stopped working, but because your work finally compounds. Every hour you invest builds something that survives you. A system, a relationship, a gate, a structure that keeps working when you stop touching it. You are no longer renting your existence. You are owning it. This changes how you see people. You stop envying the wealthy and start studying them, not their lifestyle, but their positions. You stop hating outcomes and start analyzing mechanics. You realize the game was never rigged against you personally. You were just playing it blind. Position is the difference between shouting into the wind and speaking once while the world leans in. It is the difference between begging for opportunity and being the opportunity. It is the difference between being chased by time and owning it. But understand this: once you hold position, you must guard it. Not with paranoia, but with discipline. You limit access. You manage presence. You speak less. You reveal later. You let results speak in your place. You allow silence to do what explanations never could. Most men fail here because they crave applause. They want validation for their transformation. They want the world to notice. That hunger is the final weakness. The upstream man does not perform. He operates. He understands that being ignored is dangerous when you are powerless. But being ignored is freedom when you are positioned. He understands that wealth is not consumption. It is control. Not control over people, but control over time, attention, and direction. So the final command is simple, but unforgiving. Stop asking how hard you should work. Start asking where you should stand. Stop optimizing effort. Start optimizing position. Stop trying to be good. Start trying to be essential. Because in the end, poverty is not lack of money. It is lack of leverage. And wealth is not abundance. It is inevitability. You were never meant to drown in the river. You were meant to study it, to trace it upstream, to find the narrow place where everything must pass, and to build there. The water is rising. It always is. Those downstream will struggle harder and call it virtue. Those upstream will adjust position and call it strategy. Now you know the difference. And once you see the map, you no longer get lost. So let this be the moment you stop negotiating with gravity. Let this be the moment you stop asking the system to be fair and start asking yourself to be precise. The world will not slow down for you. The river will not soften its current, but you no longer need it to. You now understand where power actually lives. From this point forward, your life is no longer about proving effort. It is about choosing terrain. Every decision becomes a placement decision. Every opportunity is evaluated not by how hard it looks, but by how much leverage it creates. You stop chasing motion and start engineering outcomes. You will notice something unsettling at first. Fewer people will understand you. Fewer will cheer. That's the price of moving upstream. Crowds live downstream. Architects live alone. But solitude is temporary. Position is permanent. Remember this: the system does not reward those who suffer quietly. It rewards those who structure reality so suffering becomes unnecessary. You don't escape the game by rejecting it. You escape it by mastering it. So stand still for a moment. Look at your map. Identify the bottleneck. Move deliberately. Build where flow cannot avoid you. The water is rising. It always does. This time, you won't drown.